Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to the Sleeper Dolphins YouTube channel. I am your host, Mike Oliva, here at Sleeper. Please be sure to also be following us on Twitter or X at Sleeper Miami. And we have a lot to talk about in the world of the Miami Dolphins. I just did a show last Friday, but since then, there's been so much news that I couldn't wait till the middle or even end of this week to do another show. So let's get right into it. The first newsworthy thing here is on Monday, late Monday afternoon, the Miami Dolphins signed an edge rusher. They signed Clelin Ferrell, the former fourth overall pick of the 2019 draft. He's still under 30 years old. He's only 29, just turned 29 a few months ago. And he is another piece here for the Miami Dolphins' weak edge rushing group. They need a lot of help there. So John Eric Sullivan went out there and signed Clelin Ferrell, probably for a vet minimum deal. Here's the deal with Clelin Ferrell. For those of you who might have forgot, in 2019, he was the fourth overall pick of the NFL draft. What? Yeah, that's right. He was the fourth overall pick of the NFL draft by the Oakland Raiders. Who was the Oakland Raiders general manager that year? Mike Mayock, who used to cover the draft for the NFL Network. This was a pick where Mike Mayock was heavily criticized for reaching and overdrafting Clelin Ferrell. Yeah, many people thought he'd go in round one, but nobody thought he'd be a top 5 pick. And Mike Mayock was questioned heavily. Like, you could have traded down and probably still got him. You could have maybe taken your pick in round 2, traded back into round 1 and still gotten him and got someone else at 4, or any number of ways. But he took him at 4th overall, and Clelin Ferrell never really, lived up to the hype. His NFL career has kind of been spotty, up and down. He's played in 98 games. He started 57. He has 21 career sacks. He's bounced around as well. Started with the Raiders for about 4 seasons. Then he went to San Francisco for a season. That's probably his best season as a pro. Then he went to Washington for a season. Then last year, 2025, he started with the Chargers, only played in 1 game, was released. Then he actually went back to San Francisco, where he played in 8 games and had 4 sacks. He's never had more than 4.5 sacks in a single season. I get why Miami signed him. They need help. They need warm bodies there in that edge rusher room. You don't know they really don't have much. You got Chop Robinson, who, okay as a rookie, not so great last year. Josh Usay, Robert Beal Jr., rookies Trey Moore and Max Llewellyn, Cameron Good, and David Ojabo, I believe is how you say his last name. There's just not anything there. And I think here with Clelin Ferrell, here's the deal. He ain't going to give you much in the way of sacks, but I think he can help in stopping the run, setting the edge. And that's where Miami needs help as well. They need guys who can, set the edge and help in stopping the running game. So Clelin Ferrell, we'll see if he even makes the team, honestly. But I think it's a solid signing. Again, most likely for a vet minimum. We don't have the deals, but John Eric Sullivan, A, doesn't have a ton of money to play with, and B, all the veterans he signed this year, mainly back in March and April, were vet minimum deals. And Clelin Ferrell still being on the open market late July, probably a vet minimum type deal. So a veteran presence here, and we'll see. We'll see how that works out. The bigger story that came out kind of late last week, it's kind of picking up more traction now, is some reporting from NFL reporter Tyler Dunn, who does amazing work. He did a story on the Jordan Brooks extension when that happened, and how Jordan Brooks really wants to change the culture in Miami, South Florida for the Dolphins, that it's been a broken culture, since he's been there, but even for a longer time, really. And Tyler Dunn, who is a Substack, it's called the Go Long Substack, and he has a website too called golongtd.com. Check it out. Tyler does amazing work. He uncovered a bunch of crazy stories from the Mike McDaniel era in Miami. And it is a wonder the Dolphins won as many games as they did under McDaniel. Mike McDaniel had no control of the locker room. The players just ran roughshod over him. It sounded like it was a frat house. It was Animal House. It was just, as a fan, it's really upsetting on some level, because you didn't, you hope the team you root for actually cares and tries. And clearly the past few years under Mike McDaniel, they had a roster of players, not all players, but more than a few, that just didn't care. And so let's get to some of the things that Tyler Dunn reported. And this is not for the faint of heart. And if you were someone who thought Mike McDaniel, he got a raw deal, or you thought Mike McDaniel, he's a good head coach, I don't know why we let him go. Yeah, this is going to change your mind real quick. So here is the highlights, or maybe lowlights, of some of the reporting here. The past few years, some of the captains would miss captain meetings following the games. So essentially, you have your handful of captains, and after the game, win or loss, they would huddle up, have a quick meeting, talk about what happened, and sort of, talk. They were the captains, they're the leaders. Some of the captains wouldn't even show up to the captains' meetings. There was, each of the position groups the past couple years wanted to, help with the team bonding, the camaraderie, and all that stuff. So they all decide, one night a week, each position group's going to go out and have a nice meal together. So you got your wide receivers and go out and have a meal. You got your running backs go out and have a meal. You got your quarterbacks and go out and have a meal. You got your, your secondary is going to go out and have a meal. And most of the position groups, all depending on which one's out, they're about 10 to 15 players. Some are smaller, some are a little larger. For most of those team dinners, only about 4 players or so showed up most weeks. So, in your, just for an example, wide receiver, you got like what, 6, 7 guys there? Because you're counting guys also on the practice squad. Yeah, about 4 showed up. Maybe in the secondary, you got like 10. Yeah, about 4 showed up most weeks. So some weeks maybe 5 or 6, some weeks maybe only 3, but on average about 4. There was another player off the record who said the players didn't hang out or look to build chemistry with each other and the teammates, and that the players frequently left the training facility as soon as the last team meeting finished. What does that mean? These guys are treating this like a 9-to-5 job where you got to punch in and punch out on a time clock. They didn't want to put in extra work. After practice or after the last team meeting, when they were required to be there, they didn't want to do extra work in the weight room. They didn't want to show up early and watch tape. Not all the players, it's not all, but there, more than a couple again. There were a lot of players that just showed up when they were told to show up and left the first chance they got. Oh, we're not done. Again, some players who were there the past few years said that some players on the Dolphins did not show up for team meetings at all. And some other players in the middle of the team meeting would just leave halfway through the meeting because they wanted to get to treatment. And 2 of the names that were mentioned a lot as guys who would do that, not a shock, were Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek Hill. They either would miss the meeting completely, or in the middle of the meeting, like, yeah, you can keep talking, I'm done. And they just walk out of the room. Everyone else they just walk out of the room. And it's not just them, but those are the 2 names that were mentioned the most. There were other players who did the same thing too. So I don't want to pin it all on them. There was another player who said, and this one absolutely blows my mind. Well, the next 2 blow my mind, but this one really. In 2024, by week 6 of the regular season, the Miami Dolphins had over $200,000 worth of internal team fines. What are internal team fines? So say a player shows up late for a team meeting, well, you're fined $5,000. If you show up late for a practice, well, you're fined $10,000. Those little things that a team can fine its players if they're late, if they don't show up, whatever. Those little things. By week 6, they had over $200,000 worth of team fines. In comparison, and Mike McDaniel showed this to the team at the time, in the previous season and the season before, they only had $200,000 is more than double of what they had for the entire season. So for an entire season, you might get 80,000, 90,000, maybe 100 over 17, 18 weeks. They had 200,000 by week 6. Mike McDaniel showed it to them like, guys, this ain't working. It didn't matter. Didn't matter. They had $200,000 by week 6. That is unheard of. Unheard of. And that goes to show you how much no one respected Mike. No one listened to Mike. They didn't care about Mike. So here's another one. At the end of the week, prior to your game, you got your walkthroughs. That's where you sort of, here's the game plan. Here's what we've talked about all week in the meetings, which no one was going to. Here's what we worked on all week at practice, which I'm sure some of these guys just skipped. Here's the walkthrough. Here's the first 10 plays we got scripted. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the walkthrough. Well, the veterans, not all veterans, but a large group of veterans during the walkthrough would have their cell phones with them, and they'd be paying attention to their phone, not paying attention to anything happening in the walkthrough. And now you look back and you wonder why they can't get in plays on time, and why they used to blow through all their timeouts in the first quarter. Well, maybe it's because the veterans didn't care, and they were in the middle of walkthroughs, just more focused on their cell phones, looking at memes, sending texts, whatever the hell they were doing, than they were paying attention to the walkthrough. And then once the veterans were doing this repeatedly, guess what happened afterwards? The rookies started to show up with their cell phones at the walkthrough, and no one was paying attention. There was an anonymous former Miami Dolphins player on the 2024 team, and I have to clean up this quote here. I don't want to swear on the Sleeper YouTube channel. And this former Dolphins player on the 2024 team said, and I quote, "We didn't fight for each other on the field. We just didn't give a F. Offense, they didn't care about the defense. And the defense didn't care. They didn't care about the offense. That's how it went. I stopped giving a F." He said there was zero camaraderie on the team, true bonds were never formed, and accountability was non-existent. It's from a player who's on the 2024 team. In the least surprising one of them all, this is the least surprising one. When Tua Tagovailoa got his big contract extension, remember it was in the summer. I think it was it was on a Friday because the next day was a practice in front of the fans on a Saturday. Tua showed up to the practice, took the house microphone, and in front of the fans yelled, "Show me the money," because he just got paid 24 hours earlier. And the fans laughed and they ate it up because, they're fans. There was more than one Miami Dolphins player who said, off the record, it set a bad tone for the entire team and it rubbed a lot of players the wrong way. Yeah, Tua, you got paid. Great. But there's other players out there who are blocking for you, who are trying to catch your crappy thrown passes, who are putting their bodies on the line, who aren't making that much money, and you're out there flaunting it like it's a joke. Show me the money like you're the richest guy in the world. Yeah, rub people the wrong way, like his teammates. So it just sounded like the Miami Dolphins were a clown show under Mike McDaniel. It really is kind of surprising they won as many games as they did because they didn't have a head coach from the time Mike McDaniel was here. And it kind of goes to show you that the NFL is a talent-driven league, that if you have enough talent, like this team did in 23 and 24, or 22 and 23, I guess, you can overcome like not having a head coach or having a horrible head coach. And you can even overcome not even trying, caring, or working through most of the week. It just goes to show you that Mike McDaniel is not head coach material. And I know there's going to be a team that's going to hire him to be a head coach in a year or two or three or whatever. He just ain't good at his. He's not a head coach. He doesn't have it. He never had it. Never had it. And what's kind of alarming from a larger picture is, this stuff is just coming out now in 2026. The Miami Dolphins had to know this after the 2024 season. Why didn't they fire McDaniel after the 2024 season? Why did they let him coach a 2025 season? Because a lot of this stuff happened in 2024. Why did they let him coach? That just goes to show you that they have a bad owner. And at the time, they had a really bad general manager, and they didn't have the guts to fire a head coach who was just in over his head. Also goes to show you what was Stephen Ross thinking last offseason after the 2025 season, which was horrible. It ended horrible, where he didn't fire Mike McDaniel after the Week 18 game. And he didn't fire him the next Monday morning. And he didn't fire him on Tuesday, and he waited to the end of the week to fire him. Like, it took you 4 days to realize you got to fire this guy? Like, this guy was terrible in 24, terrible in 25. All this stuff the fans are learning about now, they knew about this internally. They couldn't make a decision. This is how you go 25 years without winning a playoff game, man. It's like this is what happens when you have an absentee owner. And this is the problem, Mr. Ross. Yeah, he spends the money, he signs a check, but he's bad at his job. He's been bad the whole time. So, yeah, I mean, again, Jeff Hafley, John Eric Sullivan, they can't be any worse. I don't know if they're going to be great. I don't know if they're going to lead Miami. I mean, not this year. We know this year's going to be rough, but in 2 or 3 years, if they're going to lead Miami to the playoffs or, win 9, 10 games, and I don't know, but they can't be worse than this. I mean, this is embarrassing. This is honestly embarrassing that this stuff is coming out. It's absolutely embarrassing that that the head coach had no control over his team. And they just were letting guys come in and just do what they want. I understand you're trying to win and you don't want to put someone like Ramsey or Hill on the bench to, prove a point because you're trying to win that Sunday's game. But at some point, have some guts and bench them. Say, you know what? You're not going to show up for a meeting. You're going to stand up in the middle of a meeting and just leave. You're going to be on your cell phone throughout a walkthrough. Go home and don't come back. You'll still get paid because I have to pay you. You'll still get paid, but we ain't going to use you because you're not helping us win. So if we're going to lose, we could lose without you just as easy. Mike McDaniel didn't have the guts to even do that. So, again, I know this upcoming season, they're going to have the first practice on Wednesday. And trust me, folks, we're going to talk about the future. We're not going to keep looking back in the past. But this stuff really just come out probably since late last week. And I wanted to talk about it here because it's worth talking about. It's worth talking about. Just how bad it was in Miami under Mike McDaniel. And hopefully now with Hafley and John Eric Sullivan, things take a turn for the better. Might take a little bit till we see the results on the field, but Lord knows it can't be worse. All right, that's all for today's show. As always, thank you for watching and joining me here at the Sleeper Miami Dolphins YouTube channel. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, put up a comment below. If you got a topic you want me to talk about, put it in the comments below. Now that we're starting with the practices, as the week goes on, I'll be doing more shows per week, more than just one. So please be sure you are subscribed to the Sleeper Dolphins channel. Everyone have a great night, and we'll talk to you again after a while.